Hey, how's it going? Big Block here. Today we're going to be working on the oil pan gasket for the GTO. As you guys may or may not know, it's got a slight leak. Looks like the oil pan gasket is cracked. Big shout out to my buddy Brad. He let me borrow his quick jacks. These things are amazing. I mean, just look at this whole system. I think I've got something like 30 inches of clearance, and really you just plug it in. It comes with the compressor, all included. Just turn it on, goes up in 20 seconds. Nothing crazy to it. Pretty much everything is in the way to get the oil pan gasket out. Essentially we have to remove the subframe, the steering rack, and then we can pull the pan down, take the gasket off, put the gasket back on. Something we'll need to do is we have to support the engine while we drop the subframe, obviously because it's bolted to it. One of my buddies at work, Taylor, I'm going to link him down below. He's got a YouTube channel, lots of great content on there. He got me this engine support bar, Harbor Freight Special. Essentially, we're going to take these slotted stands here. They're going to fit down there in the slots. We're going to lay it across the engine bay, fender to fender. And then what we're going to do is support the engine with ratchet straps. Hopefully that's going to give us enough strength to hold the engine in place while we drop the subframe. That way I can take the oil pan gasket off, replace that, and put it back up together without pulling the engine, because most people pull the engine for this job, something like 8 hours at a shop. Hopefully with this quick jack and all my tools, should be able to get it done in a day. Hey guys, so as you saw from the blurry time lapse, we got the engine bar hoist installed. Looking pretty good, super easy to use. I think these things go for about $80 or something like that. Definitely something good to have. We got both ratchet straps on each of the heads, little hooks that are included from the factory there. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, it seems really stable. Obviously, once we start dropping the subframe and loosening the motor mounts, we're gonna double check everything, make sure nothing moves too much. Don't want anything to get messed up. But yeah, I guess next step here is gonna be draining the oil and likely disconnecting the power steering lines from the steering rack. So go ahead and get started with that. Hey, how's it going, guys? Just a little update for you. Did get the subframe out. It was a pain in the ass. I wouldn't recommend it. Just getting a little better than pulling the engine. It's been a little while since the last update. I don't know if you can tell, but the steering rack is still in there right now. I decided to leave the lines connected to going to it and just sort of pull it out of the way and pull the subframe back. Doing that allowed me to slide the subframe out, and all the power steering stuff's still there. I did disconnect one line to drain it some. Probably gonna reconnect it. I might need to take it out just to get the oil pan out. I'm not sure yet. I'm gonna kind of look at that. So now that the subframe is out of the way, we have access to the oil pan for the most part. The steering rack I actually left in place. The feed and return lines are still connected. I did drain the loop that comes from one side to the other because I was planning on taking this out. But what I found is you want to disconnect the steering rack from the subframe and slide it out just a little bit. Now, some people say this is a little sketchy because these lines are definitely fragile. I would agree. From there, once the engine's all secured, you can see the motor mounts here. The engine is secured by the hoist bar. You're going to want to drop the subframe, kind of loosen one bolt, maybe put a jack. I had 2 jacks on either side. Once you loosen the subframe, you're going to start lowering it slowly. Something that's kind of not really seen until the last second is the sway bar actually wraps around some of the power steering lines. So I'd recommend undoing this sway bar brackets. That way, as you drop the subframe, the sway bar will just kind of stay up there and sort of use these lines to pull off the bracket, or you could just pull the brackets off yourself. And a couple other things to note if you plan on doing this yourself, there are a few spots where the power steering line actually connects to the subframe. So this hole mates up with a section on the subframe, and there's a screw that goes through here and actually threads to the subframe. So if you try to drop it with those connected, you could end up breaking them. So there's one here, there's one here, there's one way up here, kind of at an angle, and there is another somewhere. Oh, there's another right here. So there's 4 of those power steering line brackets connected to the subframe that you're going to need to disconnect. So my next steps are probably just to get the pan out. Just a few bolts here and there to take off. We should be good to go. Guys, just got the pan off. If we take a closer look here, we can see this is kind of the problem area over here. These plugs here are shittily done. I've got some stuff hopefully to fix that. It looks like a couple spots on the gasket. It looks like it was a multi-piece gasket kind of put together like that. Obviously, when you see something like that, lifted like that, it's gonna leak. So I had a couple leaks kind of everywhere, sort of where all the pieces combine. Yeah, so my plan is on the new gasket, I'm gonna put some gasket maker on those little spots there, just to make sure that they don't leak. But yeah, we're gonna clean this pan up and get it back in there hopefully. Hey guys, how's it going? So just finished up putting the oil pan, the subframe, and the steering rack back in the GTO. As you can see, it's all back in there. Might have been able to tell from the time lapse that it wasn't too fun. I had one of the jacks fail on me, so I get creative with a piece of wood. You might see that, you might not. Alright guys, let's go ahead and start this beast up. Well, as you guys can tell, it's running. Pretty much just going to check on it after it gets up to temperature. Maybe once I get the wheels and the suspension back on, drive it for a couple days and check it afterwards. But anyway, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching.